Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Is the second day of the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs, and his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, one of the many women who have accused him, is now testifying as a key witness in the case.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on, to the lighting in the room, to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21, she was young, she didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to talk about the 2016 video showing Combs attacking her in a hotel while they were still in a relationship. He was once called a music mogul, a kingmaker, and the ultimate success story in hip-hop, but yesterday, as Cassie Ventura took the stand, that carefully built image fell apart right before everyone's eyes. Diddy's face turned pale as his ex-girlfriend described incidents so disturbing that even the most experienced courtroom reporters were left silent. The man who once ruled a music empire couldn't control his reactions as Cassie revealed everything, and we mean everything, about what allegedly happened behind closed doors.
Some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to take, she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table there.
Among other things, the singer is expected to speak about the 2016 video showing Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. And while Combs has pleaded not guilty, his lawyers argue that the video only shows signs of jealousy, not sex trafficking. But now, for the first time, jurors are hearing directly from Cassie about that video and other parts of their 10-year relationship. For years, Sean Diddy Combs walked through the music industry as if he owned it, because in many ways he did, building Bad Boy Records from the ground up, turning unknown artists into global stars, and expanding his brand beyond music into fashion, vodka, and media, making himself the symbol of how hip-hop could turn into serious business success. On paper, Diddy was the ultimate success story, a music genius, mentor, and visionary. But if you believe what's now coming out in court, that perfect image was covering up something far darker, as Cassie Ventura reportedly lived a completely different reality behind the scenes. Even while magazines praised him, fans cheered him, and red carpets captured his polished smile. The contrast shocked everyone in court yesterday, because while Diddy presented himself as a smooth, well-dressed professional who always said the right thing in interviews, the accusations painted a picture of a man completely unrecognizable to the public. And though Diddy arrived on the second day of the trial looking like the billionaire mogul we all know, surrounded by top lawyers, confident, even smiling as if he were heading to a meeting, that cool didn't last long, as witnesses described a dramatic shift in his behavior within the first 30 minutes of Cassie's testimony, with the confidence vanishing, the calm expression breaking, and his legal team jumping up with repeated objections as Cassie began detailing specific incidents from their relationship. Imagine this, the man who controlled artists' careers and handled massive business deals, now unable to control his own reaction in court, as witnesses described how he couldn't sit still, the power dynamic completely reversed, and the once dominant figure fidgeting with his tie, cufflinks, and hands, while court observers noticed him urgently writing notes and passing them to his lawyers so fast that one even raised a hand to slow him down. One reporter described it as watching someone realize they've lost control of the story for the first time in their life, while another said Diddy looked physically sick as Cassie calmly explained their relationship, and a third mentioned seeing him close his eyes multiple times like he couldn't bear to look at her or hear what she was saying. And this was only the beginning, because as Cassie's testimony continued into the afternoon, the courtroom would soon learn exactly why Diddy was losing his composure, as the specific allegation she was about to make would send shockwaves through the entire music industry and threaten to destroy the legacy he spent decades building, with the man who always controlled the narrative now facing a version of the story he couldn't rewrite, edit, or escape.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm gonna be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's gonna be interesting to watch is, you know, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down, because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
Cassie Ventura took the stand. The courtroom became so silent you could hear a pin drop, and although everyone knew this moment was coming, no one, not even Diddy's legal team, was truly prepared for what she was about to reveal, because after years of staying silent and holding everything inside, Cassie finally had the chance to speak, and speak she did. starting small in a way that made her words even more powerful, as she began by sharing how she met Diddy when she was just 19, and he was already a wealthy and powerful figure in the music industry, while she was a young model hoping to launch a music career. And from the very beginning, the power difference was huge, and according to Cassie, Diddy knew exactly how to use that power. With her story unfolding like a horror movie, slow and tense, starting with minor control issues, like how he allegedly demanded to know her whereabouts at all times and would show up unannounced when she was out with friends, and then shifting to her career, where she claimed he threatened to shut down her music projects if she didn't meet his demands, even sabotaging collaborations with other artists if he felt insecure. But what truly shocked the courtroom was her claim that he installed tracking software on her phone, knowing exactly where she was at all times, and often calling her moments after she arrived somewhere, while she also testified that he slowly cut her off from friends who might influence her to leave, until he was the only person left in her life. And the judge had to call the courtroom to order 3 times during this part because Diddy kept reacting visibly, shaking his head, whispering loudly to his lawyers, and making faces that the jury could clearly see, only calming down for a few minutes before reacting again, like someone realizing for the first time that they were no longer in control. And then came the moment that changed everything, when Cassie handed her phone to her lawyer and they displayed text messages and emails on a screen for the court to see. And the look on Diddy's face was pure shock, as he clearly had no idea she had kept those messages where he allegedly apologized for violent behavior, and others where he supposedly threatened her career if she ever spoke out, messages that directly clashed with the public image his PR team had pushed for years. But even those messages were just the beginning, as Cassie continued her testimony and started describing physical assaults that allegedly happened throughout their relationship, with the courtroom falling completely silent as she spoke of being thrown against walls during fights, and one moment where she claims he pushed her down a flight of stairs in a rental home in Miami. And most disturbing of all, she described being choked until she nearly passed out, saying he only stopped when she went limp, and several jurors visibly reacted to her words, with one older female juror seen wiping away tears and a male juror unable to look Diddy in the eye during the more graphic parts, while even the most experienced courtroom reporters admitted they weren't ready for the level of detail in her testimony. And all of this was just building up to the hotel incident that would take this case to an entirely new level.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs. She's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down.
I thought I was going to die that night, Cassie said, her voice barely above a whisper, as the courtroom leaned forward to catch every word while she described an incident at the Four Seasons Hotel that had never been made public before. Not by the press, not by fans, not even by the gossip blogs. And according to her, this horrifying experience had stayed buried for years because of fear. Fear for her career, fear for her safety, and fear that no one would believe her over someone as powerful as Diddy. But now, on the witness stand, she was ready to tell it all, explaining how what began as a normal industry after-party turned into a nightmare when Diddy allegedly became furious after seeing her talking to another music executive, and she described how his smile vanished, how he grabbed her arm so tightly it left marks, and how he whispered threats into her ear while still smiling and acting calm in front of everyone at the event. And most shockingly, Cassie told the court that Diddy literally dragged her through the hotel lobby to the elevators while she cried and tried to resist, creating enough of a scene that hotel security approached them. But according to her, the guard backed off as soon as he recognized Diddy and simply asked if everything was okay. And when Mr. Combs said yes, the guard just walked away without even asking Cassie if she was alright. And then came the photos. Images Cassie had taken the morning after the alleged attack, showing bruises on her arms, a split lip, and redness around her neck, photos taken shakily in a bathroom mirror that somehow made them feel even more real and upsetting. And she explained that she took those pictures because she feared no one would believe her otherwise, while Diddy's legal team quickly objected, trying to block the photos from being shown to the jury by arguing they weren't properly verified or should have been submitted earlier in the case. But the judge denied every objection and allowed the photos to be shown on courtroom screens. And the jurors' reaction said it all. A female juror covered her mouth in shock. Two male jurors looked away from the images, and another juror in the back row was seen taking notes with a shaking hand. And this hotel incident became the shocking moment nobody saw coming because it had never been mentioned before in any statements or legal filings, meaning Diddy's team had no prepared defense, and their panic was visible to everyone, especially when Cassie continued by testifying that Diddy had thrown a champagne bottle at her, missing her head by inches and smashing it against the wall, followed by a violent outburst where he allegedly trashed the hotel room, breaking a lamp, flipping a table, and punching a hole through the bathroom door. And most disturbing of all, she claimed he stopped her from leaving the room for over 48 hours, taking away her phone and threatening her if she tried to call for help. And when this part of her testimony ended, everyone in the courtroom turned to Diddy because his reaction in that moment would go on to define not only the trial, but possibly the rest of his career.